Perik Revi. Hasechres achamer leilicha bahar veilicha bebika. Now, when you rent something and you make up where you're going to use it, so the pashtus, you're not really supposed to change it. That was the deal, that this is where you're going to use it. But if you did change it, and then something happened, so we say, if what happened we could attribute to the fact that when you changed, so then you're responsible, because you changed it from what you made up, and as a result of that, this and this happened. Masha'enkin, if we say that the pashtus, what happened, is not, you can't attribute to your change, so then even though you did an avla by the fact that you changed, but never let your potter. Now normally a chamer is easier for it to slip on a mountain than it is on a bika in a valley. But on the other hand, it's easier for it to get heated up in a valley than it is on the mountain. The mountain is cooler air, so over there it won't get heated up. Mashenkin in a valley, more of a chance of it getting heated up. So then is azay. Hasechres hachamer leilicha bahar veilicha bebika. Is im huchlika, if it slipped on the bika, which bepashtus, being in a bika is not a reason to slip. Fakert on a mountain is more of a possibility of slipping. Is potter afal bisha over al dasa bailam, even though you did something wrong by bringing it into the bika. But lepel, you can't attribute what happened to the fact that you were over al dasa bailam. However, if it got heated up in the bika, so then we could attribute what happened to the fact that you were over al dasa bailam. Yidaka chayiv. Fakert sochra lehilicha bebika va'olicha bahar. You rented it with the intent, with the deal was that you're going to bring it in a valley, and lepel was huchlika bahar. Is im huchlika over there for it slipped is chayiv, because shatakol is bahar yasim bika. The chances of it slipping on a mountain is greater than slipping in the bika. However, vim huchma, if it got heated up, is potter. Why shachamim was bebika yasim anahar? Because generally it's warmer in a valley than it is on a mountain. The sharuach min hashem is b'rashi heart. Now that's only if it got heated up, from the weather. However, vim huchmas machmas hamayla knows because it was exerting so much energy and going up the mountain, so that's what I got heated up. So then chayav, because lepel, the fact that you brought it on the mountain caused it to be heated up and by exerting energy. V'chein kol ki is nekudas advarim is that when a person makes a deal with someone and he goes and changes that deal, which he shouldn't have done, and then if something happens, so if what happened we could attribute to the fact that you changed the deal, so then you're chayav. Masha'enkin, if what happened we don't attribute to what you changed the deal, so even though you did an avla by the fact that you changed the deal, but nevertheless it's your potter. That's similar to what we learned before, that chilasi b'pshia, the sefer be'enis is chayav, but only if the enis came as a result of the pshia. Masha'enkin, if the enis didn't come as a result of the pshia, so then you're not chayav for the enis. V'chein hasoichres hapora lachrish bahar. You hire a para to go ahead and plow in a mountainous area, and lepel v'chorash bebika. You went ahead and plowed in a bika, which is a mountainous area. It has rocks. A bika is not so. It's not so hard. It doesn't have so much rocks. And v'nishbar hakankan, and the plow, the keli with the metal keli which goes into the ground when you plow, got broken. V'hu hakeli shecheresh bei. So as Arei Secher Potter, because we're saying, you hired it in order to plow in a mountainous area, which is harder to plow. Lepel, you plowed it in a place where it's easier to plow. And Lepel, the plow got broken, so Memela didn't do anything wrong, which caused that the plow should break. The pashtus, if it broke here, it would have broken there for sure. However, if it didn't balapar, so the person that rented the para with the plow, he's potter because he didn't do anything wrong, which caused what to happen. What happened? Masha'enkin, the balapara has to deal with the people that were actually holding the plow, the people that were holding the plow and dealing with the actual plow. He rented the para with the plow, but lepel, there were people that were working on the plow. V'chein im le'shina al dasa bailam lepel. If he did exactly what they made up, and there was a person rents a cow in order to plow, and lepel is v'nishbar hakankan, and lepel, the plow broke, is din balapar im umnen. The din balapar is not with the soicher, but with the umnen that were involved in the plowing. There's the person that's renting the para, and then there are people that the professionals that are involved in actually dealing with the plow. Now, soch, that's talking about, again, he went ahead and he rented it almanas to plow in a mountain, and lepel he plowed in the bika. So lepel, the person that rented it maybe didn't do right because lepel he went to a place where that's not where they made up. But on the other hand, you can't say that he caused that this plow should break. Because if the plow broke in the Bika, the Pashas, we can assume that in the mountain for sure it would have broken. So Mamela, you can't attribute what happened to the renter of the para. Lepel, the people that were actually dealing with the plow, they have to deal with the person that owns the para and the plow. They have to deal with him. Now, al derech zeh, if Lepel, he did exactly what they made up to do, and Lepel got broken. So again, the renter is not chayav because he didn't do anything wrong. But on the other end, the people, the professionals that were involved in the plowing, as you rent the plow, prices, you get together with the people, you hire people to actually deal with the plowing. So Memela, so they have to deal with the balapara. Now, Sochra lachrish bebika v'charish bahar. Over here, he rented it to plow in a bika, which is easier to plow. And Lepel, he went ahead and was charish bahar. And v'nishbar hakanka is over here, a seicher chayiv. Over here, the seicher, since he changed the deal, and what he changed could cause the plow to break, so Mela, he's chayiv towards the balapara. So the first thing is the balapara months from the seicher, the money for the plow. And now the dina shel seicher in the umnan. The seicher has to deal with the umnan. There's nachamo. There's a person that owns the para, the person that rented the para, and there are the people that are actually working with the plow. So if we could say that the fact that the person that rented the para changed the place of where they were plowing, and that caused it to break, so then the seicher is mechuyev to the balapara, and then the seicher has to deal with the umnan. Masha'inkin, if we'll assume that the seicher, first of all, if he didn't change anything, or even if he did change it, but he only changed it l'toiv, and as he rented it to do it in a mountain, l'peil, he did it in a bika, so you can't say this change caused it to break, so therefore the seicher is potter, and then the balapara has to deal with the umnan. Now, mahu din ha'umnan sheshaver beis charisha shemesham. What's the din of these umnan? As you say, these people that are the professionals that are plowing, and lepel, the plow broke. So mi mishalim zeho oiches es hakele beis charisha. Vice is there's the person that's working and causing the para to go straight, to making the para walk straight, and then there's the person that's actually holding that metal piece that goes into the ground, and he puts it into the ground for the para to go further. So that person that holds that metal piece and puts it into the ground, he's the one that's responsible. Because he's the one that put it in probably too deep, and therefore as a result of that, it broke. But if the field was made out of different steps, in other words, there was like places that were rocky areas, and Memela is really negea on both of them. It's negea how much he put the metal in, and it's also negea in the place how the para went, if the para went straight or the para went not so straight. So over there, vices, both of them could be responsible. So they both have to pay for this plow. Side the person that's manning the para with this malmid. Malmid is the stick that has that metal piece at the end of it, which causes the para to go straight. And also v'oiches sakeli. So Bekitzer, the people that were involved in the plowing, so normally we say on a regular piece of ground, so the person that's dealing with the actual metal that goes into the ground, he's the one that's responsible. If the plow breaks, Masha'inkin, if we're dealing with an area which is milas, which are steps and mail over there, it's very easy for the para to go off on a different direction, and therefore as a result of that, for the plow to break, so they're both responsible. Side the person that puts the metal in, and side the person that's leading the para. Halacha Gimel. This din is behemshel, the same, just like we learned before, beneged that achamer, if he rented it to go on the har, he went bebika or bebika went in the har. So we take a look whether the change that he made in the deal could be attributed to what happened at the end, to the damage that occurred. So the same thing over here. Sochra ladush bekitnis. He hired a para in order to thresh kitnis, legumes. And lepel v'dosh b'tvuah, he used this para to thresh tvuah. And kitnis is more slippery than tvuah. And v'huchlika, and it slipped, is potter. Because lepel, the chances of slipping on tvuah is less than on kitnis. So Mamela, the fact that it slipped on the tvuah, we could say that if it would have been on the kitnis, for sure it would have slipped. But fakert, but b'tvuah v'dosh b'kitnis, if he hired him, if he hired the par and the deal was that he's going to thresh tvuah, and lepel v'dosh b'kitnis, and it slipped, is chayiv, because we could say the fact that he changed the deal, that's what caused it to slip and get hurt. Shakitnis mechalekas, because kitnis is something which causes it to slip. It's more slippery. Ma'aseh be'echad, shehiskir chamer lechaveri, va'amar lei, and the masker told the Seicher, lei seilich lei b'derech naharpkeit. Don't go on the way of naharpkeit, shamayim mitzuim sham, on that way there's always water. Ela b'derech narsh, you should go b'derech narsh, she'ein shamayim, there's no mayim. Now Lepel halach b'derech naharpkeit, Lepel he went b'derech naharpkeit, umesa chamer, and the chamer died. There was no Edom to really say which derech he went. He came alone and admitted, I went b'nahar pkeid not like the deal was. And the only reason you told me not to go there was because there's umayim. And so he's timing that Itaka was Meshana, but Lepel it didn't die because of my shina, because my shina there was no water there. And L'chura, based on what we're saying until now, that even though if he was Meshana, but the Lepel of what happened has nothing to do with the shina, so L'chura should be potter. So L'chura over here, the Seichel would be L'chura that it should be potter. So that the Ram says, V'amru chachamim, Abheil v'yasham edim, u'me'idim, shamayim b'nahar pkeid metzuyin, that it's very regular that there should be mayim b'nahar pkeid, is chayav l'shalom, he has to pay, shari shina al das habaylam, he was mishana al das habaylam, ve'in emrim mali l'shakir b'makom she'eshed. So knows even though l'chura he's tining, he has a migo, he could have said that he went in the other derech. Lepel he's being made that he went on this derech, but he's tining that it didn't die because of the water. So l'chura, according to his tiny, he's taka potter. But on the other hand, we don't believe him in his taina that there was no water, because Lepel, since there's Adam, that it's normally water there, so in Mele, despite the fact that he has a migo, he knows if we would have believed the story that he said that there was no water there, so then Taki would have been potter, because Lepel, he was Meshana from what the Bailim said, but on the other hand, not as a result of that, what happened. Masha'enkin over here, we don't believe him that it didn't die because of the water, even though he has a migui, because let's say we consider that a migui b'makom, even though there's no mamish edim that there was water there b'shas ma'isa, there's edim that mayim is mitzuyim sham. So since there's edim that's mayim mitzuyim sham, that also goes into a gather of migui b'makom. Halacha dalet haseicher zabehem olahavi olah masayim litum shel chitim vehevi masayim litum shel seirim umeisa. Now a liter is a weight. See, the deal was he's going to bring 200 liter of chitim. Now lepel chitim is heavier than seirim, so memela the volume of male litrim of seirim is greater than the volume of male litrim shel chitim. So lepel he brought the same weight of seirim as he would have brought of chitim, but a greater volume. So aseicher zabehem olavi olah masayim litrim shel chitim ve'evim masayim litrim shel seirim umeisa chayav. Why? Mipnei anapach kosher lemasui. Because the volume is also kosher l'masya. In other words, since they made up the deal that he's going to carry 200 litrim of chitim, which is the same weight as 200 litrim of seirim, but it's a smaller volume, and carrying a larger volume is also makes it difficult. V'haseirim yesh lo napach. The seirim have napach, have a greater volume. In other words, it's not as condensed, the seirim, and therefore is a greater volume. V'chenim sochra lahavi yoleh tvua. He hired him to bring tvua, v'hevi mishkol letev, and he brought the same amount of weight that he made up to bring of tvua, he brought in straw, is also a greater volume, and therefore, when something happens, so we say that the volume knows it's not only a question of how much weight it was carrying, it's also negeya how much the volume was. It was vakert. He hired him that he's going to bring 200 litrim of seirim, and lepel he brought chitim. So chitim, it's the same weight and it's a smaller volume. So then Umeisa is potter. So again, the Nekudas Advarim is that if even though he was Meshana, Pashas you shouldn't be Meshana, but on the other end, you can't attribute what happened later to the Shinoi, so then he's potter. Masha'enkin, if you could attribute it, so then he's chayav. So over here also, since Lepel, you could attribute, because Lepel it's a greater volume, so therefore he's chayav. Halacha hey. Sachar is habehem lirkev ala ish, leyarkev ala isha, because normally a woman is bigger. Sachra lirkev ala isha is markev ala ish. That's the general rule. And markev ala, when he deals, he says that a woman is going to be riding on this behema, is markev ala kol isha. You don't have to make up what kind of woman, ben ktana, ben gdela. Vafilu muberes, she minikas. Even though she's a muberes and she's minikas and she has a child with her as well, but nevertheless, if you made up an isha, so an isha could mean any isha, an isha, even an isha muberes, that's minika. Halacha Vov. Hasecher zabehema losis aleh mishkal yedua. He hires a behema in order to carry on it a mishkal yedua, and a certain weight. And the haste of a masoy lepeil, he added to the weight. Before we were talking about he added to the volume. Now he's talking about he added to the weight. Is im hoisef chelik mishleishim alashir shepasakime umesa. If he added a 30th to the original weight that they made up, and lepeil the behemoth dies, is chayv. Because we consider that the fact that you added this weight, you caused it to die. However, pachas mikan, even though you added to the weight, but it wasn't actually a 30th, is potter. You're potter. However, noisnu scharatesus. But no lepel, for each amount of weight, you have to pay a certain amount of money. So memela, since you added to that weight, so lepel, you use the behemoth more, so therefore you have to pay for that. But lepel, you're not responsible if something happened to the behemoth. Now, socher stam, if a person didn't make up a clear weight, if he just hires a behemoth to carry something on it, is eini noisel b'mishkal hayadu b'medina leisa behemoth. He carries what normally you put on that type of behemoth in that country. And if he added a 30th to what's the normal weight that it would carry, it would normally carry 30 litrin, let's say, and so he put 31, which means he added a 30th. The same thing applies to a ship. He added a 30th to the normal weight that you would normally carry, or to the weight that you made up, and lepel v'tava, and the ship sunk, is chayiv l'shalom domer, so you have to mishalom domer. Halacha zayin, hakatif shehoisav al masoy kav echod, v'huzak b'masa zeh chayiv b'nezokav. The normal masa of a person is 30 kav, So mainly, just like we learned before b'negea behema, that if you added a 30th to the normal masa, and something happens to your chayiv, so Aldera is over here. Even if you have a kativ, a person that's carrying, it's a person that's carrying, and lepel, you loaded him, and normally you should load him with 30 kav, and you added an extra kav, which means a 30th of what you should normally load him, and lepel, something happened to the kativ, so you're chayiv. Nacham ala kativ, shehoisav al masoy, which is normal masa is 30 kav. You added kav echad, and lepel v'huzak b'masik zeh, b'masik zeh is chayiv b'nezokav. Afal pi, Shehu ben das. L'churi kataina, he's the ben das. But he umargish bekeved amas. So l'churi kataina, he realized that it's extra weight. So therefore, he must have been makabel on himself. And if he didn't object, so he was makabel. So we say no. Maybe he didn't realize it's extra weight. Maybe he felt the extra weight and he thought maybe he's not feeling so well. Maybe there's something wrong with him that he feels this extra weight. But it's not nafka that he realized. If he would have realized that you put on him extra weight and lepel, he went anyways, so he was a son of a kibbul. Mashengan over here, we're assuming he didn't realize that it was extra weight, and lepel, you did put on him extra weight, and something happened. So mainly you're responsible for what happened because you put on this extra weight on him. Halacha ches. Hasecher is a chamer lirkev. Person hires a donkey to ride on it. The vice is the seder was that the donkey, when you hire the donkey, so it would be also the owner of the donkey would be leading the donkey, and you'd be riding on the donkey. So you'd be putting your stuff on the donkey, and the owner would also maybe put some of his stuff, as we'll soon see. So besides yourself putting on it, you also put ksusa, your clothes, ulegine, and also your water bottle, your water pouch, umezenesav shel esi aderech, and the food that you need for that trip. Maybe it's a trip for a few days, and the owner of the chamer doesn't want so much weight on this chamer. So you can go buy each place where you're going to rest at night, you buy your food. So we say no. It's normal for a person that's going on a trip to take all the food that he needs for that trip. And he's not going to start going every night. He's not really so used to what's going on over there. So we're not expecting him to go every night and start looking for food every night for the food that he needs for that day. So we say no, it's regular for the person that's going on this trip to take all his clothes and his water, the guinea, and also the food that he needs for the entire trip. If he wants to put more than that, is that a makal of a bal chamer, because he's finding that you're loading the chamer too much. That's the so the one that's riding on the chamer has the right to go ahead and put these things, but not more. Now v'chein yesh lebala chamer laniach aleh se'irim v'teven u'mezein shleisi hayim. No, the bala chamer, which is also going, he puts on the chamer. So now this is a question of the rider saying, I don't want to have all this on the chamer that I'm riding. I want to go faster, or I want to go easier. No, you're just putting too much stuff on the chamer. It's becoming too crowded on the chamer. So again, yesh lebala chamer laniach aleh se'irim. You put on the barley that he needs for the chamer, v'teven u'mezeines, and the food that he needs shleisi hayim. Aber yeser al zeh. But more than that, a secher ma'akev olav. The secher couldn't ma'akev. Why? So for the Bala Chamer, we say he should buy each mol and a mol because he knows the area. This is a regular trips for him. So mainly he could buy each stop. And therefore he could only take the stuff that he needs for that day. Masha'enkin, the person that's riding on the Chamer, he doesn't really know so much what's going on there. So therefore you don't expect him to go looking b'chol mol and a mol for food. He could take himself food for the whole way. If lepel, there's not really a place where the person that owns the chamer should be able to buy stuff that he needs for the entire trip. So then he also puts all the food that he needs for the entire trip and all the food that he needs for the beim. A person is traveling, he's going to travel for 4 days, and someone is traveling with him. The Bala Chamer is traveling with him. So he has to put on this chamer, he can put on his clothes, and he can put on his food, all the food that he needs for the entire trip. Because you're not expecting him to go ahead with finding every night food for the trip. However, the Bala Chamer, he is not expected. He is expected to find food every night for the trip. So knows he's only able to bring the food that's needed for that day, for him and the be'ema, and then he's expected that night to go ahead and find the food that he needs for the next day. That's only if it's possible for him to find food for the next day. But if he's traveling in an area where over there it's not possible to buy food for the next day, so he also puts food for the entire trip. Yeah. All of these things are b'seicher stam, b'mokim she'ein minig yedua. When a person stam seicher, a place there's no minig yedua, so then these are the halachas. Aval b'mokim she'yesh minig. But if there's a place that there's a clear minig of what the normal procedure is, and what's expected, and what you're allowed to put on the chamer, what you're not allowed to put on the chamer, then it's akil if minig. So always according, the stam das is kiminig amadina. Unless if there's no minig amadina, so then there's these halachas of what Chazal told us, what's the proper way to deal with.